Welcome to Footprints and Impacts, the podcast where we uncover how the environment shapes our health and well-being. Whether you're curious about how chemicals in your surroundings affect you, or you're looking for practical ways to live a healthier life, you're in the right place. Brought to you by the Environmental Health Association of Canada and the Environmental Health Association of Quebec, this podcast shines a light on multiple chemical sensitivity, MCS, the importance of healthy, least toxic product choices, and what it means for those navigating this disability, where over 1 million Canadians have a diagnosis of MCS. We're here to raise awareness, offer resources for accessibility, prevention, and build a healthier, inclusive community. Let's dive in and explore how our footprints leave a lasting impact on our health and our planet. So, hi Rohini, hi Rosa. It's great to have you on the podcast. Could you start by telling me a little bit about yourselves and your journeys with multiple chemical sensitivity?
Hi, Marco. It's great to be here. My name is Rohini Peris. I'm the president and CEO of the Environmental Health Associations of Canada and of Quebec. My journey with multiple chemical sensitivity started in 1995 or 1993, actually. I was diagnosed in 96. It's been a long journey, and here we are. Working for this condition and for this group over the years.
Thank you.
Hi, Rohini. Hi, Marco. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. My journey with MCS started in 2007 as I had exposures at my workplace, and my condition got worse and worse over the years, and I found the association, and it's been life-changing for me.
Nice, thank you. So, Rohini, let's touch a bit on the history of EHAC-ASEC. Could you tell me a little bit about the history of the Environmental Health Association of Quebec and Canada, what inspired its establishment, and what's some of the key milestones in its journey towards supporting individuals with MCS?
The Environmental Health Association of Quebec was started in 2004 after many appeals from people to do something about multiple chemical sensitivity in Quebec. And at that time, we had just completed working on the Pesticide Code of Quebec in Quebec, and we had obtained legislation in Quebec, which was introduced from 2000 to 2003, phased in during that period. And we were actually going to step back from all this activity because my family was impacted also by pesticide exposure, and so we just wanted to get back to living, but there were so many people who asked us to do something. And so we reached out to, at that time, the Allergy and Environmental Health Association in Ottawa. And we sort of got some strength from that organization. And then we realized that there were other organizations across Canada, in British Columbia, to Nova Scotia, and we all changed from the Allergy and Environmental Health Association of Quebec. We all dropped the allergy in 2008, and we became the Environmental Health Association of Quebec. In 2022, we started the Environmental Health Association of Canada because we were working from coast to coast with Quebec. We never refused anyone from across the country because we were a Quebec-based group, and we found that we needed to go national to meet this demand. Because also what happened over the years is that all the other groups, or most of the other groups, have either closed down or they're not functioning the way that they used to. And so we picked up that slack and that gap of not having any support for this condition from across the country. The milestones across the years have been just being in existence. Having an organization like this run by handicapped people for handicapped people is not simple. We were met with a lot of resistance to be able to get funding or support, but all that has changed. We started working with the University of Quebec in Montreal. We developed educational material that went right across Quebec, and we noticed immediately an increase in the requests for accommodation in the workplace and elsewhere, and people were getting them. And then we then work with the government of Quebec and now very much with the government of Canada on very important projects.
Nice. I see that the mission of the associations, they really emphasize equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Could you share some specific initiatives or projects that the association is currently working on to support people with MCS?
Yes, of course. In 2007, multiple chemical sensitivity was recognized as a disability and protected under the law as a disability, like any other disability. And this resulted in accommodation being provided for this disability, mostly at the federal government level. And what that accommodation meant was providing least toxic to non-toxic product choices and fragrance-free products used in spaces such as the workplace, healthcare, and in other spaces, including the community, so that people with this disability have access to the built environment like any other disability has access. And just as you have certain tools like a wheelchair for people who need them, or a white cane, or any other disability, the specifics for this disability, the assistive device, is that healthy air for access and inclusion. And in 2019, Canada passed the Accessible Canada Act, which assures accessibility, diversity, and inclusion to all spaces right across the country, and to be fully accessible by 2040. In this regard, we applied for and received funding from the federal government for a project titled Empowering Community and Removal of Barriers Project, the ECRoB project, which went right across Canada. And we reached out to human rights commissions, law societies, medical societies. We worked with lawyers and doctors and the general public, civil society. And to date, this month is actually 2 years since we started the project, just about 2 years. We've given over 100 workshops to all these organizations. And we have partnered with very important organizations to give these workshops, partners such as human rights commissions right across Canada and law societies, to teach this to lawyers and other professionals. Because even though 1.1 million, I stand corrected, 1.13 million people, this is 2020 StatScan data, over 1.13 million people are diagnosed with MCS in our country. Very few people know about this condition. And that's why, Marco, I really thank you for getting this podcast going, because we need the public to know about the disability of multiple chemical sensitivity, the number of people who are diagnosed in our country, which far exceed other chronic conditions such as cancer, Parkinson's, etc. And yet there is such little knowledge for a condition that is increasing in prevalence. For example, StatsCan started keeping data from 2000 at certain intervals, and over a 16-year period in 2016, the number of diagnosed cases had more than doubled to just over 1 million. And like I said, by 2020, it had exceeded 1.13 million, 72% of which are women. So this is definitely a woman's issue. And all women should be concerned, because that point of when you crash down with this condition is not known, but it happens. And it happens from exposures to your everyday products that are on the shelf. It doesn't mean that because a product is on the shelf that it is safe. What it's not on the label is the possibility that it has carcinogens in it, or sensitizers that sensitize people towards chemical sensitivity. But one thing we do know, and we have seen repeatedly in our organization, during the ECRoB project and even before, over so many years that we have been in existence, that when somebody comes down with this condition, there is an equality. No matter what financial background you come from, or your education level, or which part of the country you are from, what is standard is then you become a nobody with a label on your forehead, because people don't understand that it's chemicals that have sensitized you, and what you then need are safe, healthy spaces so that you can work and live and be productive. And this means in your house or in the workplace. In fact, even your neighbors need to change, because their laundry products can make you really sick. Walking on the streets is difficult. So to get back to the ECRoB project, the ECRoB project thought about all this everyday requirements for living, teaching about workplace accommodation. 40% of people who are diagnosed with multiple chemical sensitivity cannot work. And this results in billions of dollars of loss to our economy, not to mention the severe loss and pain to the individual as they experience poverty and lack of access to environments. So one of them was the ECRoB project. And then the Environmental Health Association of Canada is also funded by the government of Canada. And the role of the Canadian group is to reach out to shelters and to volunteer groups to teach about this condition. Of course, it's a brand new group. So all the things that one needs to do for a brand new group is being done. Thanks to the government of Canada for helping us to do this. And we put out, in both groups, we put out paid ads on social media to collect data on how many people have symptoms on exposure to everyday products, cleaning products, perfumes. And we see a number in our collections that is way higher than 3.5%, which is the percentage of people that are diagnosed with MCS. And that's very alarming. So that's the second project. We also have a research project funded by Accessibility Standards Canada, where we are testing the air in buildings that have scent-free policies versus buildings that don't have scent-free policies. And the results of this research is going to inform on the next generation of standards for access to the built environment. We also do support for our community resources. We have events. We provide a safe space for gathering for our communities. We have movie night and, opportunities where people can just gather and meet, because this is a very lonely, this causes a lot of loneliness when people cannot be part of society because of the chemicals being used.
Yeah, that's great. That's a lot of great information. And I was also wondering, like, how did the groups approach education and advocacy to raise awareness about MCS? I know you mentioned a lot of paid ads, but how do you do it among healthcare professionals and also the general public? Like, what impact have you seen from all those efforts?
We measured we've been measuring the impact of the ECRoB project. And 9 months into the project, we measured a 9% increase in awareness of the people who responded to our social media ads. But we did a more sophisticated analysis of impact. And we took 2 periods, one in 23 and one in 24. Both were a period of 6 months. And we did a statistical analysis to find out with 95% confidence how much, what was the increase. And it was between 2 to 8%, which is very good because you're talking about the population of Canada. At each of our events, we have data collection. So we put out a survey at the beginning to measure understanding of the condition and understanding of air quality and what makes up air quality. And at the end of each event, before people leave, we put out another survey to ask about understanding, to measure the difference in before and after, and also to find out their willingness to change. So now that they know that accommodation depends on, very simply, your product choice, which is not rocket science, which is not a huge sacrifice, that it just depends on that. Scent-free, least toxic, what more could you ask for a cleaner environment and for better health? So we measure that. And in the over 100 workshops that we've done, there's not been a single workshop where we didn't have a positive result. That at the end of it, people were agreeing that they would change and they would go to scent-free policies. And this was very heartening for us because it has not been easy to launch this huge project right across the country to such a diverse number of people in so many different fields, and to cater our questionnaires and our surveys, depending on who they are, to measure that impact. It took a lot of effort and skill. And so we were able to establish that, yes, when people are educated, when people know the impact of what they use can be on somebody else, right? Whether it is to sensitize them and they crash into sensitivities, whether it is to, protect your family. Why should you have these other products in your house? You're not growing corn in your house that you need to use strong chemicals. You're growing your family. Your babies are on your floor. There's the hand-to-mouth movement. So we were extremely happy to be able to put that message out. And more than that, really happy to see that people were picking it up. So I think that whatever work is being done across the country by different groups, where you talk about, choose wisely, choose better. This is your family. We don't have legislation protecting us yet. We have to act before legislation comes in. I think that's the takeaway from this project. Yeah, and the reason why you're doing it also is to let those people who have been hurt and damaged, bring them back into society for inclusion and accessibility.
I also noticed that there's a lot of collaboration with various stakeholders, and that's key to your mission. Could you discuss some of the partnerships, the groups that have formed, and how they contribute to shaping public policy and improving living conditions for those with MCS?
Yes, sure, Marco. We were actually quite surprised, and we feel extremely blessed that we have amazing partners in our project. We have Arch Disability Law Center. It's a group who have come with us for most of these presentations across the country. We're doing a research project with Arch, where they have looked at all the cases on MCS right across the country, and there's going to be a report and a research paper coming out of it. We're partners with the Council of Canadians with Disabilities. This is a large national disability group, and also with Indigenous participation. There's also BCANS, another indigenous group, national. And we have the New Brunswick Lung Association, NB Lung. There's Santé Mobile A1, which is industry. There's also the Environmental Health Association of Canada. I should have mentioned that right at the top because that's our sister group. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Oh yeah, there's Spinal Cord Injury Canada, another disability group and a great partner. And we have COFAN. COFAN is a Quebec-based national group, very strong partner. COFAN and ASEQ and the Canada group have done great events together. We just finished one on the 7th, that's last Monday. And COFAN stands for La Confédération des Organismes de Personnes Handicapées du Québec, COFAN. And then, of course, there's Dr. John Malott and Dr. Caroline Barakat from the Ontario Tech University. So we're very blessed to have these partners. And of course, we've had new partners come in along the way in Quebec and outside of Quebec. And we reached out to, I would think, around 5,000 groups to come into our, to join our workshops. And we've actually had a series of workshops given just to disability groups. The disability community has embraced us. They completely understand the disability of multiple chemical sensitivity, because when you see that there is injustice, when you see a need for inclusion, you understand much better than when you're not there. So what we are asking people to do is open your minds, open your hearts. We don't need charity. We need you to understand this disability and provide accessibility by minding your products.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of understanding MCS, I think that's the biggest question of all of them, right? Like if you had to explain what multiple chemical sensitivity is and how it affects individual in their daily lives, what are some common misconceptions about this condition? Like, what could you explain? I know even Rosa has definitely a lot of personal experiences she could share, but like if you both had to say, what is MCS in your own words based on your experiences, what would it be?
Multiple chemical sensitivity is a chronic condition, a recognized disability. It can be triggered through sensitization of certain receptors on your cell, which interact with the environment, both the internal environment and the external environment. Each receptor interacts with different kinds of chemicals, and sometimes they can get sensitized. And when that sensitization takes place, you then react to these chemicals, and then you start reacting to them at even lower doses. And these are commonly encountered chemicals. So unless literally our doctors have the expertise to diagnose it right away and inform the patient and their families that they need to have healthy spaces, like I said, perfume-free and least toxic immediately, not only in the home, but in the workplace. What will happen to the person is that if they don't have this, is that they will spiral downwards into a worsening of disability, where each exposure will give them a higher intensity of symptoms at lower doses of exposure. And therein lies the extreme disability of multiple chemical sensitivity, as all the things that you loved, your workplace, your community, your hobbies, going out to events with your children, just living your life, your birthday parties, your anniversaries, all that is gone. You cannot tolerate that unless accommodation in the form of least toxic and fragrance-free environments are provided. So this is what we teach. And so when I went down with multiple chemical sensitivity, I was shocked. I didn't know what had happened to me. I was always well. I was never, colds, cough, sick all the time. I was never any of that. I was so tough. And I'm like an A-type personality. So I was always go, go, go. And then suddenly this thing happens. And I thought, must be my imagination. How can it be that my nose is running and my head is hurting? And here I'm putting on weight and my legs are swollen. I'm in pain all over. And I did not realize that it was from exposures to chemicals. But then I did. I did realize that when I put on my perfume, I couldn't talk. I actually realized that when I went to church to sing in the choir, and there was nothing coming out of my mouth. And so I put these two and two together, and I realized that something was going on. And of course, my doctor didn't understand at all. And that's the worst part of it, because you grow up thinking that your doctor is always going to take care of your boo-boos, right? I mean, what did you learn when you were a kid, Marco? Rosa, didn't you learn that you get sick, you're going to get taken care of? So I think that's the first and the biggest shock.
Yeah.
That, there's a pushback saying this is impossible, it's all in your head. And then I had these really severe symptoms. I had a blood test done in the United States because this doctor told me you're poisoned. And I cried. I went home and I cried. And I told my husband, who's going to poison me? And I went back, I got the test. I was heavily poisoned by pesticides. And then you think that, okay, then I would have gotten help. No, I was told we don't know anything about this. We haven't studied about it. The best help was go listen to a radio show. And so you're talking about a long journey here, a long journey of pain and suffering, missing all my children's graduations, missing all of life, right? And I think the only blessing that came out of it was working for this organization and growing it literally out of love. And because I was there 2 feet in it, and I knew what people were going through. And they were going through the same thing that I had gone through. So in a nutshell, that is my story and what MCS is.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Rosa, what about you? If you had to define what MCS is and how it impacted you.
MCS changed my life. I was a healthy, hardworking person, didn't have any illness. And then it all started at my workplace. I worked for a very well-known university where I never thought I would have been treated the way I did, the way I was. Especially, I was a good worker, and I put my heart into my work. We were moved into an old building. The department, the whole department was moved into an old building where major renovations had been done. The building had been gutted out, and major renovations were ongoing. And before the renovations were finished, we were moved into that building. A few days after moving into the building, there was an odor in the room we were in. We were about 10 people in that room, and everybody smelled something. I was the one closest, like there was an old oil tank being removed, emptied out and removed under my work area. And my symptoms, everything started there. Like, I would go into work and I would lose my voice, have headaches, nausea, sore eyes, loss of balance. All these symptoms would happen all at once, and it was very hard for me to get my work done. The others complained of light headaches, but I was the one most affected. Anyways, I begged and complained and to be moved, and for a couple of months I was ignored, and eventually, this is a very long story. I was there for the next 7 years, before my body could no longer take it. So every year I worked 6 months and then went on sick leave 6 months, came back to get more sick because of more construction work, went home to get better, came back to get more sick because of more. Every exposure that I had just made me get more and more sensitive to everything. At first, it was going to Canadian Tire or Zellers or pharmacy. I would have symptoms there, but eventually it was in my own place. I was reacting to what was in my own apartment. And so I got so sick to the point of having to stop working after 7 years. And not only I lost my job, I lost friends and couldn't visit family. Just visiting my parents was very hard. Slowly, I had to get them to change their products. And then I found the Environmental Health Association. I mean, doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And so I was always searching online, searching for answers, searching for help. And I found the Environmental Health Association, and I had a conversation with Rohini, and she told me what was going on, what was happening to me, and how I needed to address it. And the condition just got worse and worse. And I went through 2 years of isolation, not being able to go anywhere. That was very hard. But I got over it. I got stronger, I got better, and I became a board member of the association, and got to meet other people with the condition. And that, because you lose your friends and nobody understands what you're going through. So being able to communicate with these other people who had the same condition, really meant a lot. And I'm hoping that this podcast will move us forward, to let as many people know that we need to make changes. We need to stand up for our health.
I know my next question really was to ask you how you got involved in the association, but you kind of answered that while going. So I mean, I think I definitely got my answer. I could definitely see how you got involved and what motivated you to advocate and join, and now you're part of the board. So it's very great. And if I had to ask, since joining the associations, how has your experience changed or evolved? What have been some of the most rewarding aspects of your involvement, and how has it shaped your perspective and the challenges faced by other individuals with MCS?
It's amazing that the work that the association has been doing, it's amazing how much of their lives, Rohini and Michelle, how much work they've been putting into this. And so many out there are helpless and isolated, and so we have really need Rohini and Michelle to continue this and move things along as they're doing.
Can I just add, Marco, that we could not be strong as a group if we didn't have a fantastic board. Our board is 90% MCS, right? And so It is amazing because in any disability, it's nothing about us without us. So that inclusion of people with multiple chemical sensitivity, I think, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is the most precious thing in our organization. That inclusion of disability in our decision making, in the things that we do, in the things that we're happy to do, right? So thank you, Rosa.
Thank you. Thank you.
What I want to express to help people understand is how MCS can explode or can mushroom and snowball into such a big thing that it really takes over your life. I would never have thought that these construction exposures that I was having at work, that how much it would affect me outside of that building. It was no longer just the building, that's what got me where if I had never worked in that building, I may not have had MCS, but it all started there from the exposures. And it could be the exposures that you're exposed to in your own home. These plug-in scents and scented candles or fabric softeners, all these things that we have in our homes. I no longer have, that's for sure. But these things can affect you every day. And so I never thought that those exposures at work were going to change my life to the point of no longer going to restaurants or movies or visiting family. It drastically changed my life. And but I realize I have a gift that my body tells me right away when I'm exposed to something and then I need to move out of the room or get away. My body tells me right away, and I take that as a gift. And I try to, as much as I can, I try to let people know, but not everybody is willing to listen. And that's what I'm hoping will change, that people will start to listen.
Thank you.
I'd like to just bring about one point, Marco and Rosa, relative to what Rosa just said, and that is people not listening. I think it comes from the advertising that we have on television, which promises you youth, the best partner, takes you to a beach, gives you fresh scent, linen fresh scent, and there's nothing linen and fresh about it. Those are chemicals. Those are plain and simple chemicals, but that messaging makes you have a sort of bond with that product, becomes your identity. So imagine then, you're wearing these products and your coworker or your family members, sometimes it's mothers and daughters, sometimes it's parents throwing the kids out of the house. And sometimes it's the kids throwing the parents out of the house. For God's sake, it's just a product. But you have this advertising that has been ingrained in your head, and you have become this person, this identity with this product, and that's what you hear. You hear the criticism about you and your choice, rather than this product having the ability to harm someone. And so when somebody asks you, would you please change your product? Would you please stop using perfume? Would you please stop doing laundry with that, whatever you're doing? And don't take it personally. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing at all to do with your ability to choose well. You do not know that what's on the shelf has the potential to harm until you get harmed. And that's another thing we found, that you can talk to people and you can tell people, and the only time they listen is when they get hit and they come to us in total panic. What do? How do I change this now? And this is like a nightmare. How can this happen? You see, that is the other end. That's what you have at the other end. And there are no answers. The only answer is safe spaces where you yourself then have to ask others to accommodate you. So when somebody asks you, your perfume, your product choice, your laundry, can you please change your laundry products because I can't have my windows open in summer. I can't sit down on my patio because when you do your laundry, I have to run inside, or it gets into my house and I have a headache for days, or a nosebleed for days, or whatever the symptoms are. Listen to them. They have no reason to make up a story. They have no reason to tell you this except that there is a physical need for it. So that's what I'd like to share in relation to what you just said, Rosa.
Yeah, I want to share one more thing, Marco, that you may not hear from another person who has MCS, but after I got sick, at one point my washing machine broke down and I had to buy a new one. Let me tell you, going to stores to buy a washing machine was so hard, so hard. And that was before we started wearing masks. So I always carried a scarf with me to cover my face with a scarf. And I ended up, for me, going into an appliance store, the feeling I had was like having metal in my head, in my brain. It was such a terrible feeling, the pain that I felt being in the store. I wasn't able to finish complete my purchase. I had to get my partner to complete the purchase, and anyways, I chose he chose a washing machine. It was delivered to my home, and every day I came home from work, not only I was sick at the building, but then I was sick at home, and I didn't know to what. Within 2 weeks, I came to realize it was from the machine, the washing machine, even though it wasn't running, it was affecting me. So I called Rohini, and she told me, Rosa, you cannot bring in new appliances into your home. You have to air them out or buy a used one. So I started, actually, I first called the store and I asked them if I could change the machine. He said, yes, sure. We'll have that one delivered to the store, and then we'll deliver the other one. So I arranged for, anyways, that delivery happened. I went to the store. This time I had the salesman help me smell each machine, and he would tell me, oh, this one smells very strong, don't smell it. And I picked out one, double the price and better quality, and the exchange happened. It got delivered to my home. Within an hour, I felt like I was being strangled. I had to get out of my apartment, and that's when I spoke with Rohini, and she told me about new appliances, new furniture. And so then I made phone calls to friends and family to see who would be willing to switch machine with me. I couldn't call the store again. And I found a cousin who had a spare, she had a used machine in her garage. And so I arranged for the move to be done. My machine went to her house and her machine went to my place. And I kept it for 2 years. And after 2 years, I did the switch again. So that was mind-blowing, and what a lesson for me. I learned never to bring anything new in again. So I hope this helps somebody.
Yeah, and I would add, all new items, they off-gas volatile organic compounds, right? Any new item. So try not to bring it directly into your house. If you have a garage, keep it there to off-gas. For people who don't have the condition, make sure you have good ventilation on when you run these machines. And then try to put your old towels in with vinegar and baking soda to take out as much of the chemicals as you can before you start putting your clothes in. try to buy secondhand. Of course, they shouldn't be full of, scented stuff and stuff like that. So, I mean, be aware of what you're getting, and be aware that when you buy new stuff, you are bringing in a whole host of chemicals, and what they do to you is unknown. And also to think that, we take, like, people with chemical sensitivity usually buy organic, and usually there's an off-gassing period if you buy regular things. But when I talk about off-gassing, when I talk about cleaning, when you talk about taking your new clothes and washing them before you're wearing, you've got one planet. You don't have any other place. So whatever you are getting out of these clothes or appliances or new items, where do you think they're going? They're going into our environment, right? And they have the capacity to sometimes travel great distances, maybe drop down in the Arctic and you have a fish gobbling them. And what do you think? Maybe that fish lands on your plate. So it's all circular, comes back some way or the other. So drive the market with your product choice. And the market will listen to you, as you are seeing now more and more better products on the market. I'd say be watchful, because there's a lot of what you call greenwashing happening. So you have a white bottle with a green label and a leaf, and it's supposed to be eco. It probably may not be. Read the label, very important. Look at the logos. They have to be certified eco logos, not some company who makes up its own logo, its own flower and leaf, and it's got a whole bunch of chemicals in it. That's wrong. And we do need legislation and stiff fines for doing that sort of marketing and selling on the market. So while there is a market for eco, there is a market now with greenwashing that is, for want of a better word, just lying to you about what's in that project, in the product. So be wise when you're buying. Read the label and find out more. Look at trusted apps to help you on this journey. But you know what? Drive the market with your product choices.
Thank you. So, looking ahead, your hopes for the future of the Environmental Health Association of Quebec and Canada, how do you envision the landscape for individuals with MCS changing in the coming years? I know we spoke about more and more products, and I'd have to say since last year, I've noticed more and more changes even in certain health environments and certain stores where there's more and more of this fragrance free, or there's a lot more advocacy going on in the world. But how would you guys see the landscape for individuals for MCS changing?
Go ahead, Rosa.
Well, how I would like to see it, Marco, is I would like to see laws implemented for these companies who produce all these products, toxic products. There should be laws as to what chemicals they can put in our products. I can't buy anything at the pharmacy. Nothing. I just buy my eye drops. Everything on that shelf is so toxic. I even had to change my toothpaste. I was reacting to the toothpaste. Just because they're on the shelf does not mean they are safe. Because there are no laws, and it's a shame because there's so much disease in the world, all these cancers. Personally, I'm convinced that all these cancers are related to all these chemicals in our lives, the chemicals we breathe in, the chemicals we put on our bodies, the chemicals we clean our homes with, the chemicals in our food. This is all affecting us. So I would like to see commercials on TV, not about scented. I would like to see other commercials about safe and clean products. Good for everybody. Also, I would like to see more spaces that people with MCS can go to. they can't go into these malls or shops, or it's very, I do, I've gotten, like I said, I've gotten stronger and bolder, and I'll put on my mask and go where I have to go. But not everybody can do it, and I understand them. There was a time I went through 2 years of isolation, and there are people who've been in isolation for many years. So yes, I would like to see more understanding and more education to our doctors and nurses and children. Everybody needs to be better educated to know what we're dealing with and how we can change things. So we need a lot of safe spaces. And gosh, if we could only get rid of fabric softeners so we can walk down the street at least without inhaling fabric softeners and feeling sick with them. So yes, there are many changes I would like to see.
So first, before I answer that question, I'd just like to tell everybody that there is an alternative for everything. It's not like we're saying don't use anything, right? There is an alternative for laundry. There's an alternative that works very well. So you might have a little difficulty in the beginning because that laundry, the eco laundry product is actually getting rid of the chemicals that you used to use. The vinegar and water that you use on your windows is getting rid of the product that you had used. So it's a process for change. It doesn't happen overnight. Please visit our ecolivingguide.ca for tips on how to become ecological. Like I said, you have a lot of power in your hand. Use it. The other thing is Canadian Environmental Protection Act, CEPA, has been updated, and the right to a healthy environment has been included in the updated CEPA that is being defined right now. And I hope it has a lot of teeth. I think for us with MCS, for people with MCS, what we would like to see is that those acts and that legislation really take into account the most vulnerable among us. So that would be the fetus. You take care of the fetus, you take care of all of us. And that's the way you should be thinking. You're finding plastic all over in the human body. Do we have to get to that stage before there's legislation? Or do you think we could do it now? And instead of waiting for this legislation to happen, you, the public, you need to change instead of waiting for something good to happen to you. I'm sure it will happen in a few years, but it's not happening right now. For us at the association, like Rosa said, we would like better legislation on products, to be truly eco, to support companies who make these products, to make them more affordable for the general population, so that even people on the lower end of the income scale can afford them, which is not the case right now. So that's an injustice. And we need more awareness in our communities that we are a product of what we eat and breathe and put on our skin and use, and what our neighbors use, because we have one planet. Let's be kind to it so that we can live on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think that brings us to the close of our first episode. I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights today, Rohini and Rosa. Your stories and messages are truly valuable to the community. And before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Again, I want to remind the listeners that we are all affected by chemicals one way or another. We may think we're not, but we are. And it's up to us to change our future, to take care of our health. It's up to us to limit. There's a limit to what our bodies can take. I learned that. You know, I went into, I was a hardworking person, and although there was exposures, I went into work every day only to get sicker and sicker. There's a limit to what our bodies can take, and we need to listen to our bodies and limit and eliminate a lot of these chemicals that we use on a daily basis, which are only going to make us sicker and sicker. So me, you, all of us, we have the power to make the changes and ask for better products.
I'd just like to say thank you, Marco. Thanks, Rosa. I hope you know that we've left something behind on the table for you. And I everyone good health and be well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Footprints and Impacts. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with friends, family, and especially someone who might benefit. Don't forget to follow our upcoming episodes for more insights on sustainability, health, inclusion, and how we can all make a positive environmental impact. Until next time, stay curious, take care of yourself, and be well.
This podcast is part of the Empowering Community and Removal of Barriers project, funded in part by the Government of Canada's Social Development Partnerships Program, Disability Component.